What's up, guys? Ostara Shona. Today is the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, and as I mentioned in a previous video, can't remember which one, but I will be celebrating the northern hemisphere celebrations rather than the southern hemisphere celebrations, despite myself living in the southern hemisphere, because 90% of the human population is northern hemisphere, so we're gonna appeal to the masses. So I've got the link down below open in front of me, learnreligions.com, I believe the site's called. Yes, cool. So I'm just gonna quickly sort of read to you guys some of the stuff that it has here. Obviously there's like an opening paragraph, and then we're going to go into a bit of detail as to what Ostara, the spring equinox, actually is. Ostara is the, as far as the cycle of the year is concerned, it's the third celebration. The wheel of the year, starting and ending with Samhain, which is celebrated around Halloween, so Yule, Imbolc, Ostara being the third. With the arrival of March comes the promise of spring. The month is said to roar in like a lion, and if we're really lucky, roll out like a lamb. Meanwhile, on or around the 21st of the month, we have Ostara to celebrate. The dates themselves I've seen differentiate between the 19th to the 22nd and the 20th to the 23rd. Today being the 20th, we're actually taking the 20th to the 23rd this year, because it just happens to perfectly line up with a 4-day weekend, similar to how Easter does in the Christian calendar. Also go for a full 4 days, starting on a Friday and then on a Monday. So they are the dates we're celebrating this year, at least here on the channel. So it's the time of the vernal equinox if you live in the northern hemisphere, and it's a true marker that spring and warmer, sunnier days have come. There are many different ways you can celebrate this Sabbat depending on your tradition. So depending on your tradition, there are many different ways you can celebrate Ostara, but typically it's observed at the time to mark the coming of spring and the fertility of the land. By watching agricultural changes, such as the ground becoming warmer and the emergence of plants from the ground, you'll know exactly how you should welcome the season. There are a few rituals you may want to think about trying if you are wanting to celebrate the equinox. And remember that any of them can be adapted for either a solitary practitioner or a small group with just a little planning ahead. Alright, so it's got some links that we're going to sort of quickly follow. The first one is setting up your Ostara altar. If you're gearing up for Ostara, then you are readying for a time of the year in which many Wiccans and pagans choose to celebrate the balance of light and dark that heralds the beginning of spring. Is a time to celebrate new life and rebirth, not only the physical embodiment of renewal, but the spiritual as well. It says here, when you set up an altar for Ostara, think about the colours and the themes that surround the coming spring. Some symbols of the equinox include eggs, fresh flowers, and soft pastel colours. I myself am wearing this mint green shirt today, in trying to keep with that theme, because there are equal hours, light and dark, at the solstice. At the equinox, solstice is the longest day of the longest night. This is a time of balance. What items can you use to reflect harmony and polarity? Generally things like scales would work. This damn fly. So, similar to the symbols observed at Easter, like eggs, rabbits, new bulbs of flowers, and seedlings bursting forth from the earth, many pagans embrace these symbols to represent the fertility of spring and incorporate them into rituals, altars, and celebratory feasts. Think about some other items that might represent new beginnings to you. Before we continue on with the rest of what this says, Ostara is actually named after the goddess Esther, which is where we actually get the word for Easter from itself, as well as obviously Ostara, and her symbols are the rabbit and the egg, which is why we get chocolate bunnies and chocolate eggs, despite rabbits not laying eggs. In case you were wondering, I will cover that in a little bit more detail in the Easter video. I'm pretty sure my nephew will be here for that, so we may even have an Easter egg hunt yet. I don't know. It's all to come. So it continues on by saying, ask yourself what you want to create for yourself this coming year. What seeds will you plant? What intentions will you set? As nature reawakens, we can take advantage of the feeling of rebirth and regrowth each spring. We see this concept reflected around us in the soft green buds on the trees and colourful flower shoots that are beginning to peep through the layers of snow. We see it as the sun grows stronger and warmer each day. Sometimes we'll get really lucky and have an unreasonably bright day, like today. I get overexposed just leaning forward. Where we can take off our winter jackets and open the windows, even if it's just for a few short hours in the afternoon. As the earth comes back to life each spring, so do we. Alright, we are getting to some points here. To get an idea of what colours are appropriate for spring, all you really have to do is look outside, decorate your altar in any of these colours. Notice the yellows of the forsythia blooming behind your house, the pale purples of lilacs in the garden, and the green of new leaves appearing in the melting snow. Pastels are often considered spring colours as well, so feel free to add some pinks and blues into the mix. You can try a pale green altar cloth with some purples and blues draped across it, and add some yellow or pink candles. Altar decor can reflect the theme of the Sabbath. Ostara is a time of balance between light and dark, so symbols of this polarity can be used. Use a god and goddess statue, a white candle and a black one, a sun and moon, or you can use a yin and yang symbol. If you study astrology at all, you probably know that the vernal equinox happens when the sun enters the zodiac sign of Aries, which is coming, that is tomorrow, I believe. We're getting very close to it. This is when the sun crosses the equator, just like we'll see 6 months from now at the autumnal equinox. Thanks to science, there are equal hours of day and night. What does this represent to you? Perhaps it's about a balance between masculine and feminine, or light and shadow, above and below, inside and out. Use the Ostara Sabbath to find your own sense of balance, whether that be spiritual, emotional, or physical. Decorate your altar with things that symbolize your own journey towards inner harmony, such as gemstones, statues, candles, and chakra representations. I am hoping it will tell us what gemstones we can use. Since Ostara is also a time of new growth and life, you can add potted plants such as what do we got here? It says daffodils, lilies, and other magical spring flowers to your altar. This is the time of year when animals are bringing forth new life too. You can put a basket of eggs on your altar, or figures of new lambs, rabbits, and calves. You might want to add a chalice of milk or honey. The milk represents the lactating animals who just give birth, and honey is long known as a symbol of abundance. Other symbols of the season. There are a number of other symbols that signify, that's the way those words are supposed to be worded, but that signify the season, including insects undergoing transformation or bees busy harvesting honey. Nature deities play a prominent part in the season too. So we've got caterpillars, ladybugs, and bumblebees. Symbols of seasonally appropriate deities such as Hern, Flora, Gaia, and Attis. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Ostara, as far as Celtic gods are concerned, is Canunos. I will quickly double check that though. I just realised that I have some things that I want to sort of show you guys that I haven't prepared. So I will take a bit of a break in a second and go and get those and double check that fact. The gemstones, I was wondering if we were going to show us this. So gemstones and crystals such as aquamarine, rose quartz, and moonstone. As well as you can have a ritual fire in a cauldron or brazier. If you have a fire pit at your house, that's cool too. I know you can get yin yangs and stuff like that on necklaces and stuff. Then be wearing some pastel colours. You can quite easily just have a bit of a get together with friends to celebrate the equinox. And as long as you sort of repping the colours and the themes, you don't need to set up a proper altar. Your fire pit can suffice. Alright, so I'm quickly gonna just jump away for like 2 seconds and I'll be right back. Alright, so I'm back. I was remembering the horned god incorrectly. He is celebrated during Yule. The goddess celebrated during Ostara in Celtic mythology is Danu, and she's the mother goddess, which kind of makes sense when I think about it. If you've ever seen the Wicca symbol showing the maiden, the mother, and the crone as the 3 stages of the moon, there's a waxing crescent, a full moon, and a waning crescent. Then having our mother goddess being the character in the middle makes a lot of sense for an equinox. The other thing that I wanted to show you was my Arwen stone. This is a Celtic symbol that basically sort of is the same as like the yin yang is for Asian cultures. The 3 dots represent sort of the triple goddess, the same way that Wicca symbol I just described does, and then the 3 rays coming from it can represent a myriad of things, one of which is life, death, and rebirth. And since this whole festival is about rebirth, it's a sort of the keystone to my altar when I set up. Alright, so let's look at some rituals for solitaries. Considering that we're all being self-isolating at the moment, a solitary ritual is probably going to be the one we have the most. So Ostara is a time of balance. It's equal parts light and dark. At Mabon, which is currently the festival that neo-pagans in the Southern Hemisphere are celebrating, not I. But at Mabon we have the same balance, but the light is leaving us. Today, 6 months later, it's returning, which is pretty true for the Southern Hemisphere at the moment. Spring has arrived, and with it comes hope and warmth. Deep within the cold earth, seeds are beginning to sprout. In damp fields, the livestock are preparing to give birth. In the forest, under a canopy of newly sprouted leaves, the animals of the wild ready their dens for the arrival of their young. Some ritual tips that it gives: perform this ritual outside if at all possible in the early morning as the sun rises to reconnect with the earth. Now, while I didn't wake up to watch the sunrise this morning, I did manage to get up early enough to get the little opening intro bit to the video. So I am still trying to, and it's only 9:45 at the moment, so I'm filming this in the morning as well. So I'm doing well, considering. The next point that it gives is to consider your own place within the earth, the sun, and the divine. How do you fit into the grand scheme of things? How do you find balance between light and dark in your own life? It's a very self-reflective question, and something that you can sort of meditate on while performing this ritual. It also says to make an offering and find a sense of balance and harmony between light and dark, winter and summer, warmth and cold. So it says, for this ritual you'll want to decorate your altar with symbols of the season. We've already been through that. Think about all the colours you see in nature this time of year: bright daffodils, plump tulips, green shoots, and incorporate them into your altar. This is also a time of fertility in the natural world, so the egg is a perfect representation of this aspect of the season. Symbols of young animals such as lambs, chicks, and calves are also great altar adornments for Ostara. The rabbit, as I said, makes perfect sense here as well. We'll be hearing a lot about the rabbit in like the next month. It's actually kind of crazy how much of the rabbit we're going to be hearing about. So what you'll need, in addition to decorating your altar, you'll need the following. Perform this ritual outside if at all possible, as I said. It's spring, so it may be a bit chilly, but it's a good time to reconnect with the earth. If your tradition normally requires you to cast a circle, do so now. You will need 3 candles, 1 yellow, 1 green, and 1 purple. So those would be the 3 colours that I would try to stick with going off this, with sort of pink and blue taking a back seat here. Don't worry, you'll get to use those at other times. The pink will probably come back in like the summer festivals and stuff, like Litha, and you will get to use blues and stuff during Yule in winter. You'll also need a bowl of milk and a small bowl of honey or sugar. Obviously, as we've already established that honey is a symbol of abundance, that's probably best. So begin by taking a moment to focus on the air around you. Inhale deeply and see if you can smell the change in the seasons. Depending on where you live, the air may have an earthy aroma or a rainy one, or even smell like green grass. Sense the shift in energy as the wheel of the year has turned. Light the green candles to symbolize the blossoming earth. As you light it, say, the wheel of the year turns once more as the vernal equinox arrives. Light and dark are equal, and the soil begins to change. The earth awakes from its slumber, and new life springs forth once more. Next, light the yellow candle, representing the sun. As you do so, say, the sun draws ever closer to us, greeting the earth with its welcoming rays. Light and dark are equal, and the sky fills with light and warmth. The sun warms the land beneath our feet and gives life to all in its path. Finally, light the purple candle. This one represents the divine in our lives, whether you call it a god or a goddess. So in this case, would represent Danu for me. Whether you identify by name or simply as a universal life force, this is the candle which stands for all the things we do not know, all the things we cannot understand, but that are sacred in our daily lives. As you light this candle, focus on the divine around you and within you, and say, spring has come, for this we are thankful. The divine is present all around, in the cool fall of a rainstorm, in the tiny buds of a flower, in the down of a newborn chick in the fertile field waiting to be planted in the sky above us and the earth below us. We thank the universe for all it has to offer and are so blessed to be alive on this day. Welcome life, welcome light, welcome spring. Now during that, if you have identified the candle as being a god or a goddess, instead of saying we thank the universe, you would insert the god or the goddess's name there. You then take a moment to meditate on the three flames before you and what they symbolize. Consider your own place within these three things, the earth, the sun, and the divine, and how do you fit into the grand scheme of things. And just do that meditation as I mentioned before. Finally, you blend the milk and honey together, mixing gently, pour it onto the ground around your altar space as an offering to the earth. As you do, you may wish to say something like, I make this offering to the earth as thanks for the many blessings I have received and those I shall someday receive. Once you've made your offering, stand for a minute facing your altar, feel the cool earth beneath your feet and the sun on your face. Take in every sensation of this moment and know that you are in a perfect place of balance between light and dark, winter and summer, warmth and cold, a time of polarity and harmony. And when you're ready, you can end the ritual. Now, this does also say that if you're doing your, if you're having your ritual indoors, because it is too cold to go out in the morning, then once you've mixed your milk and honey, it says to pour it into your garden. So you do have to go outside at some point, regardless, to make the offering to the earth. Now there is also an earth meditation and some other stuff. I'll let you guys discover that for yourselves. There is a bunch of links here under the little subheading Ostara Magic. There's a little paragraph that reads, Spring is a time of rebirth and renewal. Why not take advantage of the season to do a bit of spring magic? Now is a good time to use spring to work on magic related to rebirth and growth. And as I said, there's a whole bunch there if you want to discover those for yourself, because they are some pretty deep cuts into the full-on celebration of this event. And having already spoken about altars and one ritual, I don't want to sort of put anyone off any further if this is not something that interests them. But you can follow the link down below and click on any of these links yourself if you are interested in it at all. There's then a little section on traditions and trends. So these links regard things such as the vernal equinox has a long magical history, and you can read about how it's been celebrated throughout time. Some of the gods and goddesses associated with the spring equinox, different celebrations around the world for the spring equinox, because pagans aren't the only ones celebrating this time of year. You can read about Ostara, the goddess of spring. You can read about whether or not Easter eggs are secretly pagan. And then there's a link there about St. Patrick and the snakes, and it reads, there's a lot of speculations on whether or not the snakes were a metaphor for pagans. Did St. Patrick really drive them out of Ireland? I think in a previous video I made, and if not, I definitely read it, but there's a figure in Celtic mythology that simply just led those people to it might have been St. Patrick actually, now I think about it, but he led them to Ireland, which was already devoid of snakes. But you can read that full story, myth, whatever you want to call it, there. There's then a little section for some crafts and creations. So it says as Ostara rolls in, you can decorate your home and keep your kids entertained with a number of easy craft projects. Start celebrating a bit early with a St. Patrick's Day snake wreath or a basket of naturally dyed eggs. And that gives some other crafty ways to celebrate the season with 5 easy decorations for Ostara. And then the end of the article has no pagan celebration is really complete without a meal to go along with it. For Ostara, celebrate with foods that honour the coming of spring. So those include eggs, early spring greens, shoots and sprouts, and of course the all-important marshmallow. And I'm sure if you did enough searching online, you would find out why a marshmallow is important. But that's pretty much it. I myself am about to actually go and have some eggs for breakfast. I'm gonna cook myself up a nice little omelette with some veggies in it. And then, sort of continue on with my day, do some celebrations, do some meditations, that sort of thing. But yeah, if you celebrate Ostara yourself, I would love to hear how you do it, so leave me a comment down below. If you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, please do hit that subscribe button and the notification bell if you want to be notified when I upload new videos, which I do try to do daily. So yeah, this next week is super packed at the moment, and I am very slowly but surely working on April's video uploads as well. I'm about halfway done already, and I only started yesterday, so we're going to be chock full of some really awesome stuff in the next couple of months, so would really well be worth your while clicking those buttons. But until next time guys, keep your head screwed on.